Hi, my name is Rebecca and welcome to my channel. I was at a craft show and I seen these adorable little trees and they were so cute. And the price I was not thinking was all that terrible for the craftsmanship and the time that the individual had put into it. But it gave me an idea, and I'm always looking at something and wondering if I can remake that. And so I had some stuff in my craft stash. I'm not highly influenced by things that I see online, design styles. I like color, a lot of people do not. I'm highly influenced by my budget and what I'm actually prepared to spend. That influences me more than anything else in the world. So I went home and I had some things and I put this together. So let me show you what I did. My inspiration came from a craft show where I seen these handmade trees. So I went home and I had these plant stakes that I had purchased at the Dollar General back in the spring when everybody had their gardens out, and I had 3 of them left over that I could use. If you don't have the plant stakes, you could always use 1x1s pine from Lowe's or Home Depot. They are very cost effective and very easy to work with and would achieve the same look. I used some brown acrylic paint, any kind, any brand that you would want to use or you have on hand. I mixed a little bit with some water and made it nice and thin so that it would apply with a sponge brush and look like a stain. When you use this technique, it dries very, very quickly and it has a minimal messy quality to it. It's just, I really like to use the acrylic paint with a little bit of water and do a stain myself. Also, there's no odor with this. And so it applies really quickly. I just went up and down all the sides of my plant stake and the ends and made sure I had a really good coverage. If you don't like the natural wood coming through, you can always apply 2 coats. I just did 1 coat on each one of the sticks because it's going to be covered almost completely and you're not going to see the wood really showing through all that much. So by the time I got all of that on there and dried, then I was ready to put my stakes together. I used the wood hot glue from Walmart. I found that it has a really good bond. If you wanted to do a little bit more of a bond, you could always use the wood hot glue or hot glue and use the super wood glue. But I found that this worked very well and it has been very, very sturdy. I've fallen in love with the wood hot glue sticks and I have found that they really have a nice hold to it, and most of the time I don't need to add the wood glue, which is kind of messy, and by eliminating dry time and an extra step, then I can complete my project in a more timely manner. So I put all of my sticks into position and then I made sure that all of the corners of my plant stakes, I did them with the little pointed ends pointing up. If you are using 1x1s, of course, you wouldn't have any of the pointed ends. You would just have the square end. But I just made sure all of my pointed ends were pointing up. And then I secured it as tightly as I could with some jute twine. I usually pick up my jute twine at the Dollar Tree, but you can buy it at all of the craft stores and at the big box stores. But I just wound it very tightly several times around the top, and then I secured it with some more hot glue. I had this little guy standing up on its own by this time, and I knew where my positioning for my legs needed to be. So I took some jute twine again and some hot glue, and I started with a section at the bottom and I wrapped some jute twine around the bottom several times, making sure it was nice and solid and secure on each one of my little plant stakes, and that my legs were spread out to give it a little bit of tension. You have a little bit of versatility at this point to figure out where your positioning needs to be for your legs and how tight the tension on your jute twine needs to be. And so you can just kind of stand it up on its little tripod legs and kind of figure out where you need to position your jute twine. Making sure it was sturdy and stable and wasn't going to tip over was the most difficult part of this project. I put 3 rows of jute twine on the stakes so that I had an even position to put my raffia. So back in the fall, I had picked up some green and some red, and I had some natural raffia on hand. This is where anybody and everybody's taste comes into play. If you don't want to do a traditional red and green, or you cannot find those colors in raffia, this would be absolutely gorgeous with just the plain natural raffia. I know the Inspiration Tree had theirs done with some cloth strips, but to me it looked a little sparse and it just wasn't to my taste. And so this is why I decided to use raffia, because I wanted it to be a little bit more full and fluffy. So I just started tying my raffia in probably 4 or 5 strips, a little bundle, and then I would just make a little quick knot. I kind of hopscotched over the project with red and then natural and then red and then natural and then green, and I kind of varied my colors throughout the tree so that I didn't have all the red in one spot and all the green in one spot. But if you're just using the natural raffia, then you wouldn't have to really overthink this. You could just put your color in. They have some absolutely gorgeous colors of raffia. If you don't like red or green or natural, then just use your own imagination and let it go wild. But this is just the cutest little project, and it makes, with the raffia, the fluffiest little 3-foot tree. There are several ways that you could do this. If you wanted to cut fabric strips and knot those on the twine, you could. I just was going for this look because I really wanted something to be easy breezy and flowy. You could also take your curling iron and iron your raffia if you wanted to go that far. I did not do that step because I liked the natural, kind of messy, rustic, twisted look of the raffia as it came out of the pack. But I do realize that not everybody has the same taste, and some people like a more precise look with the raffia, and they take their curling iron and they curl it just as if you would curl your hair. But that really wasn't the look I was going for with this project. I just continued up the project, kind of rotating my red, green, and natural on each rung of twine, and until it was so full and fluffy. I just kind of played with this until I got the thickness and fullness that I thought it needed to be, and then I put a dark wired fairy light and just wrapped it around my tree. You could also do this and staple in electrical lights, but I wanted some versatility. I'm using this sitting on the floor this year, but next year I may want to put it on a table. So I wanted to have a little bit of versatility, so I just used the battery-powered fairy lights. I went up on the top and I applied some hot glue, and then I just started putting my raffia in to the 3 corners of my little plant stakes. That way, I didn't have a bare spot at the top, and I had a continual flow of the raffia. I had picked up these cute little raffia bows for 25 cents a piece, and I just fluffed them out, and that's what I decided to use for my tree topper. You can embellish this however you want. I'm only here to show you what I did and give you some inspiration so that you can go out and do something fabulous yourself. But I had these, I work with what I had, so I just fluffed them out, and then I kind of took some floral wire and wired them together. And once I had a nice big fat bow, then I just put some hot glue on the very top of the raffia that I put on my plant stakes on the top, and then I just set that bow right on the very top. I made sure I held it until the glue was nice and set.
because I did not want it to pull apart and I wanted it to sit up there really nice and fluffy. I did embellish it where I had wound it together with floral wire with some jute twine. This is how it looks sitting in my entryway. Who knows where it's going to end up next year, but I will be keeping this for the next year. It was so easy and beautiful to make.
So I think that this could be a really cute standalone piece, or you could pair it with something and make a nice vignette. So don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell so that you know when I've uploaded my next video. Give me a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching Crafts Lost in Chaos.